a little disjointed.
Seems like a lot of short scenes.
It's bold in terms of jerking people around, but I may have gone too far in a few places.
Earlier in the year, I played Watch Dogs 1, a game that has pretty much haunted my waking memory for the better half of a decade. I then made a video about it that took 2 months off of my life, and here we are again with a video that will probably take 3 months off of my life. So welcome to Suffering Through Watch Dogs 2, a long-form essay or review. It's the sequel to my previous video on Watch Dogs 1, but it isn't necessarily required reading, but I do recommend it. This video will spoil Watch Dogs 2 and Watch Dogs 1, but again, Watch Dogs 1 as a narrative is terrible, so it's basically harmless to spoil at this point. But let's do a quick recap of my Watch Dogs 1 video. The fact that everything you do in the game is pretty much null and void by the end is kind of funny. What do I even think about this game? I really don't know. Even after gathering 11 hours of footage, and that's not including stuff I didn't record, I don't know if I liked this game. I would say that I did, but not strongly. It's like a 5, right? And that's average. But I can't help but feel that it should have been better. I mean, the premise is so good. A man gets revenge, and he's a hacker who's skilled in combat. It sounds like a cool anime, right? But it doesn't do anything. The hacking can be avoided in anything but story missions. It's not essential to the experience for the most part, which sucks. Because it could have been a really interesting way to interact with the world. Imagine if Aiden had less weapons and ammo. It was more about stealth, distraction, and tactics. Hacking was to gain an advantage, not to get a cheap instant kill on an enemy. It's honestly just often faster to shoot someone than to interact with the hacking. We even have like a slow-mo bullet time, which lets us get headshots. So why hack? I liked the plot.
Bad boy, 17. What the fuck, man?
Yeah, it was pretty all over the place. Today we're talking about its sequel, the zany, wacky, tonally scattered Watch Dogs 2. I mean, okay, let's just have a look at the trailer for it. A sort of, I don't know, first impressions.
Shot here in San Francisco costs $350.
Home's smart houses are calibrated to anticipate your every need.
You're listening to Rock the Grid.
When this trailer came out, I saw this and I immediately thought, oh, okay. They took the dark, gritty tone of the original and reversed it, because that's what Ubisoft thought was wrong with the original game. Not the game's characters, plot, or gameplay, but the tone. This is something I'll be coming back to later, as Watch Dogs 1 and 2 could not be more different in that regard. These games might as well not even be in the same series for the most part. But we'll get there. Let's start at the start. And right off the bat, this game is very different. I mean, for starters, listen to this dialogue.
Consider this your Dedsec initiation, Retro. Your mission, should you choose to accept it.
Was that a fucking reference? Albeit perhaps a little bit forced on some of these lines. I mean, they reference the Secret Cow level from Diablo later on in the mission, and that feels like they shoved that reference down my throat. So is this Watch Dogs game gonna have a sense of humor? Is it gonna have characters who actually seem real? I mean, Marcus wears human clothes. He doesn't dress like a sci-fi dictator, so he's already doing better than Aiden in that regard.
Reason for a purge. We'll be watching.
Try to keep up.
By the way, we put this playlist together to set the mood. Hope you like it.
And we get a soundtrack. Okay, I'm down. This area is the game's tutorial. The game, it's still a cover-based stealth shooter. We still have parkour, it's fairly rigid, but I think it looks better than the original. One thing that really sticks out to me, however, is the conscious decision to equip us with only a stun gun for combat. A non-lethal option. Even the melee takedowns are non-lethal. We cut back to the Dedsec crew watching us on a camera.
He's not in.
Gotcha.
So that's him.
He's got a gun. Is that a problem?
So Tara is displeased with our attempt thus far, and asks Josh, the one in the hoodie, to time us hacking through this door. But we finish before Josh even has time to start the timer.
Too late. He's in.
Already?
This is a pretty decent way to set up Marcus as a good hacker. It sets up our script cred as well, as after we take down these two guards in the cutscene, the Dedsec crew discuss our past hacks and how big and important they are, but don't really offer up details.
Who is he?
It's... Retro.
The home domain awareness hacker? That Retro?
Yes. We told you that already?
Yeah, I never listened.
This part admittedly feels pretty ham-fisted, but I mean, I don't really know what else they could have done. We need context for Marcus, and unless they're going to have a few missions prior to this one, it was the only real way to do it. It's far better than the introduction to Watch Dogs 1, where our main character is shit and gets his niece killed, and then suddenly gets good at hacking and shooting when the plot demands it so. Marcus is, from the get-go, a decent fighter and a good hacker. Aiden has to have a mentor at the start of his game, Marcus doesn't. We also get introduced to Ubisoft's newest tool from the toolbox, Hacker Vision. It's the Assassin's Creed vision thing where it highlights enemies and items. You know what it does. We've all played a game that has it. Enemies are red, hackables are easy to spot, and it's ugly as sin. But you can have it on for the entire game if you want. There's no time limit, there's no cooldown on it, so you can just have it on. The rest of the tutorial mission, however, is kind of a sandbox. We have some objectives, and the only failure condition is death. So it's kind of nice. If you get spotted, they just call in reinforcements, which of course, I get spotted because I fucking suck at stealth. We eventually reach the final room, and, well, what do you know? They made wire puzzles worse, somehow. They are now physically part of the world, and you have to run around and turn the nodes. See, I thought at first, wow, this is a really good idea. That it could make for some really inventive platforming and puzzle solving. And no, it didn't. It's terrible. It's just, no, I'm good, honestly. The game only makes you do it a handful of times throughout its runtime, but every time you have to do it, you just get reminded that this is just a worse solution compared to what Watch Dogs 1 had. Once we finish the wire puzzle though, we get to look at our profile.
What the fuck? Why's my threat so high?
Marcus, you just broke into a CTOS hub, so maybe it isn't as incorrect as you think it is.
This is bullshit.
Well, this isn't right. I shouldn't be here. I'm in the town on Gorgon. The bachelor path isn't out for a few more months. We need to go back to the video now.
Or I could just...
We delete our account and make a new one, which is our online profile for multiplayer. But much like Aiden in the original, Marcus lives a backdoor.
Sorry, Bloom. We've got unfinished business.
He's heading out. Bag him.
Yeah.
Ethan's out cold. We got an intruder.
Our unconscious guards from the cutscene are found, and now you have to run.
Hey, what's that? Wait, what was that?
So I parkour down the tower of servers and I escape the building, which has, oddly enough, the alarms from Perfect Dark going off.
Hold it right there! Where the fuck am I go?
Josh!
Okay.
Fuck you, Bloom!
I then get bagged and tagged by Dedsec member Wrench. He's surprisingly one of the best characters in the game, despite his appearance. The worst character award goes to someone else, but we'll get there. We then get a quick catch-up lesson on CTOS and how nothing that we did in the original game mattered because CTOS is now expanding at an alarmingly high rate. Despite the fact that the literal mafia was hooked into it, a guy with a smartphone could trigger localized blackouts, a guy with a smartphone blew up a satellite, millions of dollars was stolen by a guy with a smartphone. So yeah, obviously Ubisoft didn't feel like writing that stuff into the second game's backstory. So they just said, fuck it. CTOS is just working the same now, but bigger. Because Ubisoft's writers are a bunch of spineless cowards who always forget that the actions of their characters have consequences in the larger narrative. I mean, do you remember when there was a literal alien inside the Animus in Assassin's Creed, but then they just kind of forgot about it? Like, I have played nearly every Ubisoft game, and very few of them actually have a plot that moves forward. Assassin's Creed's modern day plot literally hasn't even changed since Desmond died, and even that wasn't really a change. But I digress. Watch Dogs 2 is a massive tonal shift from Watch Dogs 1. Some people have said it's similar to Saints Row, whereas the original is more like GTA 4. And they aren't wrong, but it's perhaps too extreme of an example. Watch Dogs 2 is more like GTA 5. It's a game where they really try and make a cynical analysis of our society, and then position it through comedy and referential humor. Life Invaders, Facebook, etc, etc. But the problem here is, Watch Dogs 2 is effectively a writer's room grabbing some headlines which have big tech doing bad things and just changing some names around. It'll become painfully obvious as we move forward. I do have to say this though. At least they finally have a cutscene that actually tells us why CTOS is bad. Because the original never once told us that. At least not through blatant examples. But rather through us being told straight up that CTOS is bad and then never really being given reasons why. And Watch Dogs 2 plays to this a lot better than the original did. Nearly every major mission is about how CTOS is bad. But the thing that bothers me about Watch Dogs 2 and Watch Dogs 1 by extension is that the games are blissfully unaware of how much stuff they miss, be it better examples of the surveillance state, or just massive gaps in logic. For example, Marcus breaking into a guarded building to prove that he's not a criminal. And because of the tone of this game and how back and forth it is with its ideals, I can't tell if they're aware of this tonal dissonance. And I don't know which is worse actually. If they are aware of it, and they thought, no one else would notice, or they aren't aware of it, and everyone else noticed. I really don't know.
So, am I in?
Welcome to Dedsec.
Marcus, it turns out, has been dragged to a beach to meet his new Dedsec buddies at a party at a public beach.
I'm Satara. This sweetheart is Josh, aka Hot Sauce.
Yo, your hot sauce? Yo, man, I loved your frat house hat. Real talk.
Thanks.
This weirdo's Wrench.
The needs of the many.
And this Casanova is Horatio.
What's up, brother?
What's up, man?
Introductions are made, and we get to feel the chemistry between the members.
It's the crew, huh? Took y'all long enough to come get me. Shit. You saw Bloom's bullshit. CTOS isn't just regulating infrastructure. The amount of personal data that thing is collecting.
And as a testimony to how good this game is with its characters, I like all of these people. The dialogue is nice, most of it's good, some of it is a little annoying like this one here.
You do and tells on you.
Thank you, Josh.
So what's the fix?
Sledgehammers and fire. No! Sledgehammers on fire.
Everyone is given a personality and everyone is friendly. There's no, stinker in the group. everyone is friendly because they have a common enemy. So yeah, let's set up the plot then.
Or your house, or your insurance.
That's not even the worst case scenario. All that data in the hands of the government, they'll arrest you for shit before you even do it.
Yeah, I've been there. Now I fucking know why. Man, fuck it! Fuck it, man. We're hackers. We outthink, we out dare. I say we tear down the fucking wall. Hey, show everyone what Bloom's up to, man. Show the world that their personal data is being used to rob them of their fucking freedoms. Fuck. I installed a back door, so all we gotta do is walk right through.
Hold on.
What?
He installed the back door, so all we have to do is walk through.
Bingo.
Drunkus loudly and proudly states on a public beach that he has a backdoor into CTOS and that the gang should take the fight to Bloom, which I could have sworn was the end of Watch Dogs 1, but go off, Queen. Later on the night, Drunkus is more drunk, and a really metrosexual man jogs through the party and bumps into Drunkus. This man is clearly up to no good, but we won't figure out why for a decent length of time yet.
It's kind of late for a night run, isn't it? Hey, what are you running from the cops?
Maybe I am one.
My brother in Christ.
Hey, you look familiar.
Have a good party.
King, this motherfucker.
Hanovicus wakes up from a handover in someone else's apartment.
Hello? Whose phone is this?
It's your new phone.
Where's my phone?
In the ocean, where you threw it, I think. I don't remember. I was pretty smashed. Look, meet us at the hackerspace.
Where?
Check your pics and figure it out.
Okay, come on. Get the fuck up. Yo, whose place am I in?
We get a really nice shot of the San Fran skyline and then a title card. We even get some music, which is really quite nice. But let me just mute that real quick before YouTube decides my channel isn't worth saving.
Damn. I guess I was lit, huh?
Like Mardi Gras. Go get yourself something to wear, and I'll tell you where to go next. Oh, and you'll need your phone ready for operations, so hit the store and download your apps before you get here.
Damn, walk of shame on my first day.
So Tara tells us to buy some new clothes and meet them at Dedsec HQ. And in a really cute touch, we have to download our map app from the App Store. That's pretty cool. I like that perhaps more than I should. In fact, this entire intro has been really good. The tone is set up, the conflict is clear, the characters are likable, gameplay is quick and snappy, and most importantly, the game is actually fun. And even when I go buy my new clothes, I actually have options. Not just multiple versions of the same fucking dictator jacket and stupid hat combo. Oh, and XP is now followers. It's the same, it's just more connected to the game's world and narrative than otherwise would be if it was just XP. So congratulations, Ubisoft. You made an above average first hour. Good fucking job. Let's get over to the Dedsec HQ and get this plot rolling. On the drive over though, I realised that I can still steal money from innocent people, so of course I do this, which is really harming my experience, as Dedsec should be against this. But I also don't think it's too egregious. Like, we need some form to get money. So I'll excuse it for now, as there's a much worse example of this same line of thinking later. At the Dedsec HQ, which by the way is in the basement of a store that sells nerdy things, like dice, board games, and posters with dwarves on it, We get another introduction to Dedsec, but this time focusing on what each member brings to the table.
Invited into the hacker space, but we all have our specialties, like Josh over there. Always building shit that shouldn't work. Now he's trying to build this big-ass drone.
And Wrench?
Good engineer, too. But better at breaking shit apart. And yo, Satara? Sis got skills as an artist and a graphic designer. Without her, Dedsec's walking around without a face or voice.
What about you? What's your superpower?
Tactical coordinator or cat herder. Take your pick. I make Dedsec go where it has the most impact.
But in terms of narrative, it basically means nothing. They all do whatever. Satara is a hacker. Wrench is a hacker, but granted, he does do more breaking things than anything else. Josh is a hacker, and Horatio is a hacker. And would you guess it? Marcus is a hacker. Since last night, they've all been hard at work building the Dedsec app. It's an app that Dedsec followers can download and then donate their processing power so Dedsec can use it somehow. It's never made clear, but apparently any CTOS exploits discovered are shared using the app. I don't know if that means that having the app gives you control of traffic lights or whatever, but that would be pretty funny. Our role in all of this is basically public relations. We need to do things to get people to download the app so we can use their processing power for something. It's like folding at home, but instead of cancer research, it's powering domestic terrorism. It's a bit of a weird one. The whole concept of followers is severely underused in this game anyway. But they are basically just XP points. You get points from completing objectives, but not from killing enemies like in the original. Only completing the objective matters. The methods used to get there do not. And that is a really fucking funny message for a bunch of hacktivists. Especially these ones. They do some fucked up shit in this game. As for objectives though, we have an overarching one of just taking down Bloom, as our phone app reminds us. But we also have these side operations. And, in typical fashion, the first mission is to get a side mission. It's a Ubisoft staple, but hey, it's better than beating up innocent people in an alleyway. I'm looking at you, Aiden Pierce. Our first side mission is to steal money from a pharmaceutical CEO who is raising the cost of life-saving medicine. We do this by using a soundboard of his favourite rapper Bobo Dakes, of whom the CEO was about to exclusively buy their upcoming album.
Hello?
Sup?
Sup? Who is this?
Yo, bitch, it's Bobo Dakes.
Holy shit. I'm a huge fan. Are you taking me up on my offer?
Yup.
Can I get a sample? Damn! That's dope! That's your best work yet! So how do you want payment?
Bitch better have my money.
I do. I just need to know how to route it to you.
Y'all, check it.
Ah, there. That's the routing number?
Yup.
Uh-huh. Sent and confirmed. You got it. No. 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 No, 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 no.
Bobo King, bitches.
Fuck you. Fuck you. Who the fuck are you?
Yo, bitch, it's Bobo Dakes.
This is obviously a reference to Martin Shkreli, who raised the price of Darafrim, a drug used to treat a life-threatening parasitic infection, from about $13.50 a tablet to, oh, you know, $750 a tablet. This is also the same person that also owns the only copy of hip-hop group Wu-Tang Clan's 7th studio album. Well, until he got convicted for fraud and then an NFT group bought it and it's never been seen since. So, yeah.
Are you gonna change the price?
No.
I think we should talk about the gameplay for a bit. I'm tired of the narrative stuff, and I know you are too. So let's talk about the game, the open world, and side missions in a general sense. I guess the biggest change from the original in my eyes is how progression's handled. There's no more radio towers or CTOS hubs to hack. You kinda just have CTOS powers everywhere, and new interest points pop up on the map when you're nearby. This is much better. I like this. This makes the world seem more alive, despite the fact that it's basically the same thing minus the deliberate Vaseline smeared all over your eyes to be surgically moved by a radio tower. This new approach to open world content means that you just stumble upon Gen outposts or interesting little areas to explore. Or, quite possibly, you might just get a side mission. Which, yes, sometimes they do just get added to your mission list at random. Maybe you scan someone's texts, invading their privacy. But hey, at least you know there's another hacker doing the same thing, which then nets you a mission to go stop that hacker. We'll get to a few specific side missions later, the most egregious ones that is, as most of them are just time sinks for XP gain, and that's fine. Watch Dogs 2's other biggest change over the original is how hacking is handled now. It's really the only system that's actually been notably changed from the original. So for starters, instead of pressing Q to activate hacker mode, we now have to hold down middle click. And yeah, that is as horrible as it sounds. Q is bad, middle click is worse. But I mean, what else could they have used other than Q or middle click? Right click? But then how would you ADS? It's painful, but it's what we've got. Another thing that's changed from the original is the amount of weapons you can hold. Watch Dogs 1 did that GTA thing where you can just pull whatever you want from your pockets. You could have 6 different assault rifles if you felt like it. Watch Dogs 2 has a 3-weapon limit, and one of them has to be a stun gun. A silent instant kill, well, knockout weapon on non-heavy enemies. Which, it's good, but it has some weird bits. Like how sometimes enemies get insta-alerted if you stun gun an enemy. Not by noise, but rather by like CTOS connected heart rate monitors or some shit. It's dumb, and I fucking hate it. Because it just means that the stun gun is kinda useless because it might just trigger the enemy. But we'll touch on that later. What about the other 2 weapon slots though? Well, they're kinda whatever you want it to be. Assault rifles, shotguns, grenade launchers, pistols, sniper rifles, whatever floats your boat. The cool hackery aesthetic thing that Ubisoft added on though was that in order to get weapons, you have to 3D print them. Because yes, Ubisoft is saying that Dedsec 3D prints guns, and is also for gun control, but the fact they 3D print guns means they're against gun control, or at the very least hypocrites. And yes, I know that they needed a way to get guns for gameplay, and a 3D printer is a cool idea granted, but like, it's just funny as fuck to me. You can 3D print an AK, but you can also just 3D print the assault rifle that hacks people's dead bodies with hacking bullets. You can kill a guy and get his last text, or money from his bank account. Or you can just mow down civilians as a quick way to get money, because yes, this is a feature. And now I kind of regret saying that Aiden Pierce hacking into homeless people's bank accounts is bad, because Marcus Holloway just shoots them. Oh, and you can also shoot whilst in a car. That's cool. I don't think I ever used it though. We also get a new slew of hacking abilities, many of which I asked for in my video on the original Watch Dogs, so that's an improvement. I remember saying something along the lines of, why can we hack it all if we can just shoot them? Honestly, just often faster to shoot someone than to interact with the hacking. We even have like a slow-mo bullet time which lets us get headshots. So why hack? Something like that anyway, and Watch Dogs 2's enhanced hacking kind of addresses this. We can make most environmental hazards into proxy mines. This is again a nice touch, and I found myself using it a lot, especially during combat as it let me cover my flanks more easily. It also applies to your own craftable mines, which are a stun and then an explosive. These carry over from the original, but they're now on a cooldown timer. You don't have to craft them as you need them. And this is a weird one for me. On one hand, yay, it's more accessible as a mechanic and requires less management. On the other hand, it requires less management. It removes a lot of the tactical side of combat as you no longer need to prepare. Every fight is effectively presented on the same footing. You always have these mines. You can't use them earlier then not have them later, kind of thing. You will just have it. Like, that's bad, but kind of okay. Depends on the day for me, really. What I don't like is the rest of the hacking. Let me explain. For the first few hours, we aren't really presented with any enemies or security systems that actually prevent us from easily stealthing. There's some locked doors which you just have to get a security key from hacking someone, but that's not much. That's literally line of sight and a button press, right? But around the halfway mark, we get introduced to 3 new mechanics that make stealth a nightmare. Security cameras, complete with like a laser spotlight showing you where they're looking, laser grids, and robot Domino pizza delivery bots patrolling on set paths. All of these can be creatively worked around. A camera turns left to right, gives you just enough time to slip past. The lasers can be completely avoided if the particular situation allows it. The robots patrol, so it's just stealth like normal for them, right? These are all nice. I like them. They take what is a fairly simple stealthing experience and add some twists. Very normal and expected twists, but twists all the same. So, what if I told you by the time I encountered them, I already had an ability that just lets me turn them off for a minute, thus removing the entire challenge? And this is a really, really weird way of doing it. I understand it's a game about hacking, so perhaps it would be more strange if we couldn't turn them off. But why can we just turn them off for a minute and then immediately turn them off again once that minute's up? Like, that's fucked. That's actually game breaking. Like, surely this wasn't the intended mechanic. But it obviously is, because you can do the exact same thing to human NPCs as well. You can send a spam text and the NPCs will forget that they exist. You can do whatever you want whilst they're checking their phone and nothing will happen. They can have a gun drawn shooting at you and you can send them a text and they fucking stop shooting. So, if you want to stealth, just middle click every enemy and sprint past. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters once you realize this terrible bit of design. You're a hacker, you're the best of the best. You topple entire mega corporations. How? By sending a spam text. The best hack in Dedsec's arsenal is a spam text. It's not even a hack. It's a feature of a phone. You could do this with a yellow pages and a can-do attitude. And yeah, that's hacking. Let's change gears to talking about the non-hacking gameplay. Like, how's the gunplay, for example? Well, it's good. It's not like Insurgency Sandstorm or anything, but it's fine. For the same reasons as the original, it feels good, snappy, quick, simple. Does its job and it does it perfectly fine. There are some differences from the original though. Combat feels far more punishing. Marcus, even on the lower difficulties, goes down far quicker. You still have plenty of time to take cover or retreat, but you can't tank like you did in Watch Dogs 1. So expect to die a lot if you play more aggressively or simply forgot to watch your 6. Like me, I died a lot. This is because combat flow is very different in 2 versus 1. 2 is far more focused on stealth than the original. And this can be seen in one change they made. Enemies can now infinitely call for backup if you get spotted. You just have to deal with waves of enemies coming. Each wave calls in backup. If you fight in public, the cops show up. The cops call for backup. But areas are far more open now, which allows for easier flanking for both you and the enemies. This sounds like hell, but there's less enemies in each encounter until you get spotted. This tells me that from a design point of view, the game is trying to be more stealth-focused. It actively punishes you for being spotted, and some objectives are straight up impossible to do if you have enemies nearby. A lot of the animations in this game get cancelled if you take damage, and some of these animations feel like they're a minute long. So get used to clearing the entire building and then sprinting to that laptop so you can get someone's personal email so you can leak that they do, I don't know, cocaine in the safety of their own home. A focus on stealth makes sense with the game's lighter tone, but I never really found myself vibing with it. It was just basic. Because how I play games like this is, I always start with stealth. But if I get spotted, I'm just going to slaughter everyone. The stealth system is just what it sounds like. It's line of sight based. You can take cover, you can do takedowns. It's basic, but it does work. Although, I do have one odd nitpick. The takedowns are interesting because the animation is chosen at random. So sometimes you just punch them, or sometimes you do this fancy shit, or you just choke them. This wouldn't be a problem if these were all the same length, but they really aren't. So sometimes you get caught because the animation was longer than you thought it would have been. This makes it pointless in combat and really specific in stealth, as you have to make sure you have, 1 to 15 seconds free. And you also can't move bodies, so you better make sure there's no overlapping patrols. And, I don't know, it's just so awkward because Ubisoft has just forgotten that they have a massively successful stealth shooter franchise. Like, they literally have the blueprint for excellent stealth buried within their company's lineup. Sam Fisher can whistle, knock to alert a guard, he can move bodies, he can interrogate enemies for information. Like, I know that Splinter Cell is effectively dead, but dig up its bones and take it for a spin. See how they fit when grafted to fucking Watch Dogs skin, right? Like this is a game where you can just distract every single enemy with a text. You literally just have an off button for the AI which you can spam. So I just don't expect much else from Ubisoft. They haven't really had a well-designed game in a really long time. But like, I guess mediocre isn't bad, it's just bad, it's mediocre. And I can imagine, like, the boardroom reading reviews from Watch Dogs 1 and coming to the conclusion that everyone wanted a better stealth system. But they didn't improve upon the original. They just made it so that combat is heavily disencouraged, but then left stealth the same, and also gave the player a one-button solution to stealth. Like, what the fuck did they think would happen? You can't disincentivize one way of approaching objectives without actually making the other one also viable with its own challenges and solutions. If you want stealth to be the preferred way of interaction with the game, sure, go for it. But Ubisoft, you have to actually design for it. The combat in this game is only made out to be avoided because if you get into even a little bit of it, you are predestined to be sitting there for fucking minutes shooting guys till there's a break in the waves and you can do the objective and get out. That's the hammer's approach to game design, not the scalpel. I would think that a company like Ubisoft would know this by now. It's just so tragic that this game went from making some of the best games on the market to making just disappointing messes. And hell, we aren't even at Legion yet, and holy fucking shit. If you think I'm disappointed now, you just wait. But that's enough of gameplay, mechanics, and rants. Let's set the scene for the narrative by talking about a side mission, and why it's a microcosm for the game's strange writing and tone. There's a side mission very early on that has to do with ATMs and hacking to test out like a new ATM hack. Which it kind of gives us like full control over ATMs, which I thought we already had, but whatever. So there's a couple scenarios that happen within this like series of missions. We give money to a random guy. This is the first instance. This is good. After all, he earns 50 grand a year, then gets an extra 200 and then an extra $1,000, and he's really happy about it, as he should be.
$1,000? Well, this ain't going alimony. Happy hour, here I come.
What about the next one? Well, Carter here earns 34,000, so we take money from his account and donate it to charity, and then give him an extra 200. And then we just make the ATM vomit cash at him. Again, this is cool, I think.
Let's see whose financial futures we can screw with this time.
The third example is where we go wrong. Like, really wrong. This is Sandra Lee. She's a student and she earns about $10,000. She's dirt poor. So what does Dedsec, voice of the people, do? Well, we let her get her money out, but it's in Mexican pesos.
Retrieve your cash. 멕시코 페소 내가 했다. 취소하세요. 취소.
So we just wasted her money and her time, and possibly ruined her life, maybe made her homeless. God knows. And then we do it again, but in Canadian dollars.
완전 돈 다 안 됐잖아. 캐나다 돈? 왜 이래?
And according to her, she's apparently lost half of her money. And yes, we are the good guys in this scenario. But the real nail in the coffin is the last one.
I love messing with these ATMs.
This is Jason Coleman, an investment broker who earns $168,000 a year. He's very well off compared to the student we just scanned. So what do we do here? Do we donate all of his money to charity? Convert it to pesos? No. We just give him more money because the writers don't understand how to write a narrative that is fucking consistent. Like, what the fuck? This is a very weird bit of dissonance here. And this is only one example of this through the game. There is plenty of moments here and there that demonstrate that Ubisoft has no idea what the fuck they're doing. In this questline, we even report a woman to the cops and then take all of her money. Why? Because we can. We're Dedsec. We're above the other criminals because we are for the betterment of humanity. Like, what the fuck? But, okay. Enough rants. Let's actually talk about the narrative. Let's talk about the entirety of the first act. The first act of the narrative is basically the do cool shit, get followers for the app arc. These followers let us do more stuff. It's never made clear how, but somehow it does. If it really is crowdsourcing and processing power, then why is every single mission just brute forced? We don't really do hacking stuff in this game, we just break into places and plug in USBs. Like in Cyberdriver, the first proper mission. Dedsec gathers around a laptop and watches the new trailer for Cyberdriver, a sequel for some other movie.
For this, we need perfect sound, we need a big screen, we need to be comfy, we need quiet.
Have you seen it yet?
No, man, I waited for you.
You're the best. Thank you.
All right, everybody, we're gonna watch the trailer. Shut the fuck up.
Shut up.
In a world where technology connects everything.
I'm not looking for justice, goddammit.
One man prowls the information superhighway in search of cyber justice.
But the trailer is a little insulting to Dedsec, or rather, Dedsec believes it is.
It's gonna be a cyber catastrophe.
Cyberdriver.
I don't really see it. I, really don't see it.
Jimmy Siska is...
Got no choice, kiddies. Follow me or die.
Devin Von Devin.
We gotta get these hackers somewhere safe.
They aren't hackers, Devin. They're just script kiddies.
Hey, the car answered.
The movie, by the way, is basically just that TV show Night with the talking smart car. It's just that. It's a parody of that. That's the whole joke.
Cyberdriver.
Action hero, badass. Talking car. Admit it, Josh. The car is cool. You know what I'm thinking? We cut our own version of that trailer. And that car is gonna help us do it.
Real? It wouldn't have us a ton of followers.
Yo, first, Josh and I will go to the studio to get that script. We'll look around and see what other gems they have about Dedsec, and we'll look for the car.
All right, so what's the deal here? Are we issuing an advisory?
No, why would we do that? They'll just patch the holes.
No, let them. Don't worry, cyber child.
Oh, don't.
Hacker movie's gonna get hacked.
HMP Studios. We are holding you solely responsible for the dreck that is Cyberdriver. Cheesy stunts and bad dialogue, we can take. But you've insulted our intelligence, and that we can't excuse. It seems like you could do with a lesson on what hackers are capable of. And since you didn't come to us to learn, we'll come to you to teach. We are launching Operation Hack and Run. We'll show you what hackers can do. We are Dedsec.
You and me are prowling the information highway to seek out our own cyber justice.
Look, Josh, we're gonna have fun with this. And I promise I won't say cyber anymore.
You know, after this, the cyber world will never be the same.
Marcus downloads the script from Hook Motion Picture Studios and then steals the Cyberdriver car.
Hackers love a challenge. right, guys, let's fire it up.
This is admittedly a very good way to start off the game. We get some cool locales, some well made, if basic Ubisoft outposts, and then we get to finish it in like a driving race police chase thing. We even get to see some pretty decent characterization between Marcus and Wrench, both of which are massive fucking nerds and it shows. It's cool, it's a good mission, and it stands out to me as that, a good mission. But I segued into this mission by talking about how we don't do much hacking. Because yes, we do just break in a USB and leave. This is all we do. Every mission is this. Sometimes we stand around and wait for the download to download. Other times it's instant, but it's the same thing. Which makes talking about the missions in this game a little bit strange. Because nearly all of them are the same in terms of gameplay. So I can gloss over them. But then, most missions have something I like about them narratively or something I hate. So I have to cover the narrative of them. Unless they're like some of the missions in this game that are largely dismissible. So, let's just continue then. In this mission, False Prophets, we tackle exposing the truth of the megachurch. Yes, false prophets. Get it? Yeah, okay. And yeah, it's a Scientology standard. The overarching reason the Dedsec targets New Dawn is because Dedsec's recruitment video gets like taken down by them somehow. So Tara's upset and suggests that we can cornhole them.
We are so gonna cornhole this fake-ass church.
Something that Josh doesn't understand, and
Where the corn
I'll
goes
be
after you
honest,
eat the corn, Josh.
neither did I.
Oh.
We once again fuck around with lead Cyberdriver actor Jimmy Siska and aim to totally ruin his reputation within the church.
They don't like us using footage of their celebrity whore, Jimmy Siska. So let's start with him.
So we hack into the church, get some files on him, and it turns out that Sisko is in trouble with the church who plans to audit him.
First, I have to delay the real auditor. He's gonna get a call from Jimmy Siska.
Yes, guys, you have to hear his Jimmy Siska impression. It's ridiculous.
I don't have time now. I'll be in touch.
Hello?
Jason, I heard you're coming for an audit today.
Jimmy! Right. I was just about to leave. How's it going?
Not good. I think I ate one too many empanadas, my friend. My stomach is way too unstable for a session, if you catch my drift.
Yeah. Yeah, I get you.
Violent diarrhea.
Yes, I understand. Can we reschedule?
Yeah, we're gonna have to. I took a handful of chewables. I'll give you a call back soon. I promise. We good?
We're cool. You take care of yourself, Jimmy.
Working on it.
So of course, we intercept the auditor and become him, a la Hitman.
Yes? Hi, I'm Jason Lowell. Huh. I'm here for your audit.
Okay, Jason Lowell. I hear you're the best. Come on in.
Thank you for the hospitality. Please. All right, let's get started, huh? My sources tell me that you've been having...
The audit goes well. We learn that Siska's
I
uninspired.
want you to tell me about that.
Doubts. Well, doubts is it's a strong word. I'm not as inspired as I used to be.
Jimmy, step up. Don't hide things from us.
You're right.
But most of all, he's just really worried about the Red Room. A place where churchgoers who can't fall in line go to be re-educated. And yeah, I get it. That's pretty spooky, but come on, a church would never do that, right? Right, guys?
They're just rumors.
But that's it? I'm not in trouble?
For telling the truth? No.
Thank you. I promise you will not regret this.
Well, look, one last thing. I really need to get to the heart of this rumor, so do they say where this imaginary camp might be?
I don't know. I hope I never find out.
Well, does it have a name?
The Red Room. They called it the Red Room.
Oh, yeah, man. And one last thing, man. Like, your last 5 movies have been just disappointing as shit, so act better. All right, keep your chin up. Peace!
Dedsec is surprised by this, but I'm not. Dedsec is confused on what to do next, but Marcus isn't. He's friends with a city councillor, Miranda Conway. She has a personal stake against New Dawn, as Miranda is transgender and New Dawn, because they're weird fucks, leaked videos of like her gender reassignment surgeries, but it only made her more proud, so good on her. Not good for New Dawn because this pissed me off, and now I have a reason to go extra hard when I break into their re-education center and get to kill everyone. So we do that. It goes well, but hey, what's that? It's Jimmy Siska. We get to break him out and we get to expose New Dawn, so now we have like a friend in Jimmy Siska. A guy who we really shouldn't like because he's a religious zealot and because he's the cyber driver, that movie we just read before, but whatever. Jimmy lets us know where the church keeps their artifacts, and we go to town destroying them and exposing them for what they really are. Fake.
They're fucking fake.
This is also the perfect place to showcase one of this game's weirdest things it does. So between, at the start and end of each chapter, we get like these little Dedsec videos. They're flashy, but they're not catchy or informative. They come off of the same energy that like the only stoner at a party has. Sure, he's having fun, but everyone else just smells weed and wants to leave. Which is kind of how I feel about the rest of the first act. Let's take a look at 2 side missions that showcase what Dedsec should do. Both revolve around exposing someone for crimes. One crime is swatting gamers for team killing in Rainbow Six Siege, and the other one is for being a pedophile. We handle these in much the same way. We get in, get evidence, and expose them. And
ladies and gentlemen, Pervert Cole.
Like, the swatter gets swatted, right? That's poetic justice. And the pedophile gets his hard drive wiped, his Bluetooth headphones destroyed, and his router broken.
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme, hopefully it'll work.
Do you see the problem here? The swatter, a guy who's just a prick, gets the police, and the pedophile just loses his child porn collection. These should have been reversed. This is just another example of how this game has no idea what the fuck it's doing. How Dedsec operates and decides who gets what punishment for what crime is never concrete. It's always just fucking random by the looks of it. Over the course of this act, we have been gaining followers of each mission. Dedsec is now super popular and a lot of people love us. So why is Josh acting so angry when we arrive at HQ for work today?
Shit.
Hey, man, what's going on?
I was looking at our numbers, how many people downloaded our app, how much processing power we had available, and that's when I saw it.
What?
A chunk of our followers and bots came from inactive or dead nVITE accounts.
Hey, wait, so someone used a social media site to boost our numbers? Who?
And how many fucking accounts,
I don't
man?
know who, but it came from inside nVITE, someone with admin access, I'm sure of that. As for how many... Sorry, I didn't check. No, it's all my fault. I didn't check.
Josh,
no, I
it's
didn't
not
check.
your fault.
You know, maybe someone inside nVITE is a fan.
Yeah, or maybe we're getting set up to get fucked.
Should've checked.
We need to find out.
Marcus, find your way inside.
I should have just checked.
Josh, it's not your fault, okay? Look, we all saw the numbers. You're the only one who caught it. You did good. You did good. Huh?
Okay.
Well, turns out Dedsec has been botted. A quarter of our followers are fake, and this isn't really much of a problem to me because what the fuck do the followers actually do? But Dedsec, of course, is upset though. So we hand over to nVITE HQ. nVITE is basically Facebook. They sell data to companies, they have terrible platform moderation, have the world's stupidest looking office. Sneaking in, however, is a decent example of game design though.
nVITE's terms of service allow us to direct the news and social content of our users' feeds without their knowledge.
So we sneak in and we hack to see where the followers are coming from, and they disappear, and now we have a CTOS account. This twist, by the way, happens twice in this game. This is the first time. Oh hey, it's that guy from the party.
Bad time? Sort of feels like a bad time.
And honestly, this cutscene's pretty good, so I'm just gonna let it play out. It gives us a great look into both Marcus's and Dusan's character.
I don't really need to introduce myself, do I?
I know who you are. That night at the beach, man, I knew you looked fucking familiar.
Well, Venus must have been in retrograde or some bullshit because I think it was fate that I was in the night that you hacked into our system. I had to meet you, and there you were, pissing on your sneakers. All brains and no aim.
What's Bloom's CTO doing in the office of the CEO of nVITE? And why'd you boost our numbers? This the part where you offer me a six-figure salary?
No, fuck no. No. You could code circles around most of my programmers. No, see, I can't pitch CTOS 2.0 as a state-of-the-art security system and then hire someone that's on the no-fly list. Whoa. I just came here to have a drink. But hey, if you want to have a drink and a dance, I'm in.
Oh, you think it's a fucking joke? Huh?
Do it. Roll fucking punch.
You got everybody eating out your fucking hands thinking the system's bulletproof? You can't see the people you're stepping on.
Guess what, Marcus? Guess what? The people want to be told who is good and who is bad.
Why can Ubisoft only write the same conflict? People want freedom, said the small poor person. No, people want to be told, said the big rich person. It's the same shit every fucking game, I swear. Like, Dedsec are the assassins and Dusan is a Templar. And because this is the end of Act 1, we have to lose and learn how smart the Templars are.
In Silicon Valley, you could throw a proper punch. And you're a great investment. You're so aggressive, so indignant. You frightened the rest of Silicon Valley right to my doorstep.
You used us to sell CTOS 2.0 to them.
It was the ultimate deterrent against hackers like you. And now, everyone needs my protection. So, here it is, Marcus. Your record is back on file. Your backdoor access is plugged. And those bots I gave you, they're gone. Oh, and there's a warrant out for your arrest. For hacking, corporate espionage, and breaking and entering. It's okay. I was done with it anyway. Fuck.
Once again, Perfect Dark alarms blare as we leave the building.
Suspect or suspects have been reported near your...
Marcus is pissed, Sotaro is comforting, and the police are pursuing us.
Fuck! I got played. Fuck!
Cops are surrounding the building. Get out of there.
Fuck!
Marcus, they're surrounding the building. Get pissed later and get out now.
I repeat, come out with your hands up.
All right, I'm gone.
SUV has been dispatched after the suspect.
Fuck!
It's not that bad.
We look like a bunch of chumps.
God fucking damn it!
Wrench, calm the fuck down. It's not helping.
Once back at Dedsec HQ, we all have a heart-to-heart and basically decide that Dedsec is over.
Marcus, you got anything to say?
Well, guys, to be honest with you, I genuinely don't have a plan. But I got an idea, and I don't know, just trust me on this one.
Does Marcus decide that everyone should maybe just go to Burning Man instead? Only it's not Burning Man, but Skelter Kelter, because Burning Man is trademarked. Dedsec is dressed up in their festival garb. Wrench is kinky, Marcus is Marcus but more fancy, Sotaro is Sotaro but more fancy, Horatio as well whatever that is. And Josh is just Josh, but with a mullet. The crew might be good hackers, or so the narrative tells me, but they're not really good at dressing themselves. I mean, Marcus even let me dress him in the Aiden Pierce sci-fi jacket and didn't complain, so that's pretty lame.
I'm still in. I know you are, and we can convince the others to... You're not in?
These are from our Dedsec channels. Dedsec is not worthy. Dedsec is a bunch of skitties. You told us lies and bullshit. Hashtag Dedsec.
Yeah, so we got some shit stirrers. Who cares what they think?
Who cares what they... Jesus, Marcus. Have you been paying attention? I care what they think. I've worked my ass off for years, trying to earn us respect long before you ever showed up. This is my brand. Now it's completely fucked.
So unfuck it.
I don't know if I can.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, at least you're not a fugitive. Oh, damn.
I wonder if there's a bounty on your head. Maybe I can salvage this.
Oh, please, man, you couldn't catch me if you wanted to.
Oh, you're talking to a track star, bitch.
Just walk.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I don't want to hurt anything.
Yeah, me neither.
This next section has us reaching out to each member and trying to convince them to work as a team for this hackers competition in the middle of the festival. Because this is Burning Man, but for hackers, I think. And this is a decent time to go over these characters. Because, sure, we may be at the end of Act 1, but the Dedsec gang have barely had screen time in this video and in the game. So let's talk about them a little. And to be perfectly honest, none of them are really all that interesting. Shatara can be boiled down to the moral compass of the group, and she gets angry sometimes. She makes all the social media marketing, thus the whole thing is kinda her thing. Only it isn't, because Marcus is basically the leader. What about Wrench? Wildcard. He's angry, sure, like everyone in this game, but he also is perhaps the most caring and emphatic of the bunch, for reasons that we'll touch on later in the video. He does, of course, take on the role of comic relief for the entire game, which is beyond annoying, because he'll just have a quip after some horrible event takes place.
We're going to Alcatraz again.
You got to live the dream, man! You escaped from the rock? That is 100% legit.
Okay, do you mind, man? Look.
Please?
I think I just want to sleep for like a year, if that's okay with you guys.
But hey, all it takes for him to rejoin Dedsec is just asking him.
I mean, so he can get back up on his feet again and overcome, right?
You're trying to turn this into a metaphor for Dedsec, aren't you? I mean, if you want to keep Dedsec going, I'm right there with you. But if you're putting your metaphor money on that weirdo, no. He's going down and staying down.
Yeah, it's a long shot.
Horatio, he's cool, he's friendly. His character is explored in a future side mission that sees him navigate racism at a tech company. It's a cool mission, he's a cool guy. It's just a shame that the game sidelines him, as he doesn't appear in anything beyond some cutscenes here and there and 2 missions. What about Josh? Well, I mean, Josh is autistic, but in a surprise twist, that's not his character. Part of it, sure, they use it for a lot of jokes, but it's less, ha ha ha, he's autistic, and more, oh, he didn't get the joke. But the joke actually wasn't funny, what he adds in reply to the joke is the funny part.
We are so gonna cornhole this fake-ass church.
What's cornhole?
Where the corn goes after you eat the corn, Josh.
Oh.
Moved on. You can go back to being less of a douchebag.
Then I could go back to wearing my Siska tees without feeling like one.
Wait a minute. You used cornhole as a verb. That doesn't even make sense in the context if you...
Okay, we focus on Siska.
Could it be handled better? Sure. But this is a game not even about him, and he's handled decently in it. Which is something that Ubisoft writers do deserve credit for. Like, for example, Miranda's transgender, but it's handled well. Josh is autistic and it's handled well. There's a lot of like small elements of inclusion sprinkled in it, but they don't call attention to themselves. And this is, in my opinion, probably the correct way to do it, unless the game or media is about that specific person and the problems they face stemming from their identity, be it mental health, gender, sexuality, or race. Anyway, the game is all back together and it's time to do the Jabberwocky hacking challenge. It's basically just a normal hacking minigame, but this time Satoru and the others help us out by making the timers longer. It's neat. Finally, we're working as a group. And then the mastermind of the hacking statue pyrotechnics shows up, and it's none other than Raymond T-Bone Kenny from Watch Dogs 1. Huh? Yeah. You can probably see where this is going. He's going to be the mentor character once again. He's the same character from the original in the same situation as the original. It is a really strange way to reintroduce a character, especially one that had his own DLC exploring his character further. We sit down, he gives everyone drugs, everyone leaves, and we're alone with T-Bone to talk about Dedsec and CTOS. It's a nice chat.
Alright. A few years ago, this broken-ass system marked me as a criminal risk. Linked me to some shit I didn't even do because it was probable. And now, with CTOS, it's everywhere. I mean, I can see it down to the... subliminal shit.
It sets up why Marcus is so against CTOS on a personal level, whilst Marcus is high on drugs. T-Bone tells us about Bellwether. It was touched on in the first game, but not really. In Watch Dogs 2, it's the glue that holds together the rest of the game and justifies why CTOS is so bad and needs to be stopped. It's basically a predictive algorithm that can be used for anything the plot needs it to be used for.
It's like a Orwell Huxley double punch. Profiling, media manipulation, corporate collusion, consumerism, all driven by predictive algorithms. And now, it's setting up shop in the heart of the Silicon Valley. And somebody at Bloom's using CTOS to feed it data.
You're recruiting.
I'm aching to give Bloom a swift steel kick in the peanut sack. Now I can help you kids up your game. Yeah? Help me slay the real Jabberwock. Walk with me, Marcus.
What the fuck? Oh, shit.
We'll wake up on the desert floor, T-Bone has angered a local gang, and we have to go back to the hideout, so Act 2 can begin properly.
In a pup tent next to a lady who was very nude and very tattooed.
Good for you, girl.
No, you don't get it, man. She was the Sons of Ragnarok bride. We gotta go, man. We gotta fucking vamoose now. Come on. Fucking sons are coming. Wow.
Yeah.
So you said you guys fucked up.
We start the second act with Raymond stating he can wipe us from the system. Something which we did at the start of the game, so surely we could just do that again.
Is that all?
It's enough. We talking about Bloom here.
Hey, and you're talking to Bloom's public enemy #1, son? Yeah, I've been dodging those bastards for years. If you want, I could scrub you from the system. Give me a couple hours.
Just like that?
Well, I might have to sacrifice a goat as part of my arcane ritual, but yeah, just like that.
There you are. We've been looking for you all morning. Turns out Swelter Skelter doesn't have a lost and found.
No, it's more of a finder's keeper's policy out there in the desert.
What in the hell is he doing here?
Yeah, Marcus, why did you invite this stranger into our house?
Look, it just happened, all
The
right?
crew rock up, and Satoru is angry we invited some stranger into our hideout.
It doesn't even matter. He's cool.
Oh, he's cool. Well, that's good. Because we usually discuss these things as a group.
I know. It's my bad. But you met Ray already, right? I want to introduce you to Raymond Kenny.
That's Raymond Kenny?
I thought you'd be cleaner.
Yeah, I get that a lot.
Can I have a hug?
Yeah, I have a 2-second. I get this a lot too.
Can we keep him like a hacker in residence?
Yeah, we could use his help.
He can stay here, right? He should stay here.
Okay, fine. But if he fucks with any of us, I'm gonna pop his nuts like ripe grapes.
Message received.
But then we mention who it is, and she's fine with it. A little annoyed.
Nice hat.
Nice mask.
But fine.
Okay, we're good. You want a beer?
Yeah, I would love a beer. Or two.
Oh,
thank you.
Grab the man some hardware, too. He's gonna teach us some magic.
Now we're into Act 2 proper.
T-Bone, I'm ready, man. I'm pumped. No, seriously. Hacktivist mode. Activate. Hey, man, how do we get Bloom?
What? Hold on to your joystick, son. You kids are gonna need to work your way up to Bloom, even with me helping.
Bray, are you briefing him without me? We were supposed to do that together.
No, I just didn't want to trouble you.
What trouble? No trouble. Come on, Marcus. Let's brief.
Our first mission, Limp Noodle, is where we get to see the effects of Act 1's conclusion. Noodle, a search engine, map, website, and video platform, has begun to work with Bloom, allowing access to their data which is now being pushed into Bellwether.
Data profiling 101.
Right, but what you didn't know was that Bloom's already got their grubby paws all over that data.
Oh, shit. Oh, this is good, Satara. Noodle's data is just what Bloom needs to strengthen the Bellwether. Dig their puppet strings in deeper. If we could get a hold of this ammunition, we could take down a whole lot of different targets.
And we need to install a backdoor. Horatio actually works at Noodle.
I can help with that. You can't hack Noodle unless you get into the server farm. You can't get into the server farm without clearance. Hell, you can't even get on the grounds unless you're an employee there. Who the hell you think Rob Zombie over here gets his intel from?
Tell me you got clearance.
Oh, man, I'm trying to stay low-key right now. One of my leads is breathing down my neck.
I bet you Marcus can pose as an employee.
Oh, he could do more than pose as an employee, Satara. Tell him what you told me, Horatio.
Noodle buses. I snagged an exploit for credentials. I could get you to the buses. All you gotta do is drive it in. They'll think you're one of the bus drivers.
Shit. Yo, let's roll, son.
All right.
Hey.
This bus will allow us to gain access to the Noodle HQ without raising suspicion.
Okay, now where's the GPS? Hey, sit down. I got. Man, come on. All right. GPS. I know where the GPS is. Got it.
There you go.
Okay.
I ain't got nothing in my pockets.
The bus ride to Noodle HQ is not really eventful, but there's some interesting snippets of conversation that serve to show the player how out of touch Noodle workers are from the working class they exploit.
Horatio, what are you doing first on the bus?
What can I say? I'm an eager beaver.
Anyway, the juicing has really turned my life around. I feel lighter, my mind freer.
I hate to break it to you, but juicing doesn't do squat.
You haven't tried my juice.
I'm serious. What you want is the pulp. That's the healthy part. Juicing extracts all that. All you're drinking is sugar, smoothies. Now that's where it's at. Load them up with fruit, veg, superfoods.
Superfoods?
Yeah, like goji berries, maca powder, all that good stuff. You have a lot to learn.
You know the science behind superfoods is shaky at best.
Well, they're health foods. You can't argue that.
Yeah, but goji berries are as much a superfood as grapes are. It's a marketing buzzword.
You know, Marcus, there are times when I wish I was out doing what you're doing. And then there's today.
Thanks, friend. I'm freaking choking on the pretentiousness in here.
And here I thought Bloom employees were bad.
Once at the HQ, we get this conversation between Marcus and Horatio that sets up the secondary conflict for this mission.
Yo, Horatio, man, I'm scared, bro.
What? What is it?
Nobody look like us.
Oh, man, welcome to Silicon Valley. Hey, what do you call a black man surrounded by thousands of white people?
What?
Mr. President?
Hey, man, they see two of us together, they gonna think we plotting.
We are plotting. everything. I mean, he's fucking cute, right? Like, these dogs, they're cute.
Man, I feel so exposed.
Yeah, welcome to my world. There's only 3 other black people that work here. 2 guys, 1 woman. We have our own mailing list.
That's rough, but hey. You're fighting a good fight, changing the face of corporate life in the valley.
You haven't experienced corporate life until you're the only brother in a meeting and have to represent all of blackdom.
Jesus.
If I had a nickel for every time someone complimented me for being well-spoken.
So where's
Horatio is one of 4 black people working at Noodle, and it seems not everyone is happy with him working here, and some just treat him differently. Namely, this shithead here. He has something against Horatio ever since he was hired here, and he's been watching him. Suspects him of being a Dedsec member, or at least a supporter. And that's jail time if he's found out. And now he has a HR meeting to discuss it. Jeez. But if we can get into the server farm, we can make all this go away. So let's do it. But first, a slide. In order to access the server farm, we need to get ID that can bypass the security locks on the door. So I use my quadcopter to fly through the vent into this room and I snag some ID. Now we can access the lockdown section of the Noodle Maps building and the matron's access for the server farm. My first attempt at getting in went horribly as everyone saw me and I eventually just chose to restart. Second attempt was much better though, but there's a problem. I need another code to get into the server farm. Horatio's code actually. But he's in the middle of a HR meeting, so I better hack into a camera and see what I can do. Hacking a few things around the room, I annoy Horatio's arsehole co-worker enough that he leaves. Horatio gets a whiteboard and we communicate through turning the light on and off. It's a clever little moment. Marcus and Horatio are by far my favourite characters in the game. You can tell they actually have chemistry and this moment shows it. So we get the code from Horatio just as the adjudicator for the HR meeting shows up, so we better act quickly or Horatio is in the shit. Once in the server farm we have to do some hacking, and I can imagine you can hear my sigh from here because these hacking spinny pipe puzzles effectively are the most annoying mechanics in Watch Dogs 1, 2 and Bioshock. They take too long and to really take me out of the game. I understand we need a puzzle mechanic, but is this really the best way to do it? We have to do it a few times as well because we have to gain access to each server corridor in order to find the central server so we can plant our backdoor access, which we eventually do, making all of Noodle's data accessible to Dedsec and allowing us to save Horatio. We do this by planting false evidence, making Mr. Goodale here a Dedsec collaborator, which is kind of fucked considering it has prison time attached. But weirdly enough, it's tonally accurate to the rest of the game, so I can't really complain. Plus, Horatio is now free, so that's a win for me and for the game, as he's easily one of the more likable characters. We meet up with Horatio.
Bloom's definitely tapped into Noodle's pipeline. They've even given Noodle limited access to their content.
I'm all for singing Kumbaya, but this shit's got Dushan written all over it.
For Bloom and Noodle to be cooperating like this, it's a major find. But it scares the fuck out of me.
Oh, come on, guys. Noodle ain't that bad. Hey, enjoy the dump, but save a beer for me, all right, Wrench? Right now, I've got some code. Hey, thanks, man. Appreciate everything you did for me.
For sure.
But right now, can you get the hell out of here? You're making people nervous. Oh, hey, did you try Palmer Grapple?
Share a moment, and we're off to the next mission. Oh wait, no we're not. Dusan and some women are plotting.
Now, tell me everything you know about Dedsec.
Looks like Dedsec's about to be exposed. On the drive back to the hackerspace for the next mission, we get some nostalgia for the original game.
Privacy for anybody?
Then why the masks?
These red masks. What do they look like?
Stylish. Low poly.
Fuck. That's Default.
Default? The musician?
Default, the ex-Dedsec hacker.
Default, the psychopath asshole who tried to gas me in his fucked up spook show house.
Okay, I'm definitely gonna check these guys out then. Gives me a chance to meet one of the new followers too.
as well as getting this cat shitting on a screen, but this is not the next mission I do, so just get used to it for the next little while. The next mission is actually about some people that wear rat masks, and Raymond confirms my worry.
Fuck. That's default.
That was me.
Remember him? The rat-wearing fucking mask fucker from the first game? So, we go around hacking people which are wearing the masks, which gives us the location of the server farms, which we hack into and destroy, and then finally the location of the gear, we destroy that too. And yeah, Default is dead, it's just some people who liked his mask, but the mission brings up an important point I want to make. Dedsec believe themselves to be the only hackers who deserve to be hackers. They constantly destroy other people's servers and their reputation, all because other people also want to hack? Sure, Dedsec is hacking for the greater good, I guess. Unless you're a Chinese university student, then they take away all your money and give it to a stockbroker. So yeah, we're told Dedsec is morally good, but we don't see that in gameplay or in narrative. Anyway, here's a mission called Hacker War. This here Hacker War has some of the worst gameplay in the entire game. It's terrible, but we also get to meet the worst character in perhaps the entire series, and yes, that includes Aiden Pierce himself. Dedsec has been hacked by Prime 8, a rival hacking group, but of more important note is their leader, Lenny. She's terrible in every way. She's rude, annoying, thinks too highly of herself. She's basically an internet troll given life.
And Dedsec, if you think I won't,
we learn all of this for a really annoying video, and I mean just take a look.
destroy your system? Well, then, please allow me to introduce myself.
Yes, this is how Lenny wants to be presented. I didn't edit it. This is raw from the game. So yeah, I don't think I need to say how bad this looks, but like, good job Ubisoft for making me hate a character in less than 30 seconds. But also, is this what I'm meant to get from the video, or am I meant to think it's smarter than that? I really don't know.
Tell me it's just Kiki.
It's just Kiki. We're house cleaning the feline. Josh is brute forcing the crypto key.
Oh, shut the fuck up! Ah!
Oh.
Alright, so, are we going to war for this?
Absolutely. We're not letting these trolls drag us into their sewer.
Dedsec considers this war and decides to take the battle to Prime 8 and to Lenny.
Good is going to war with them. It won't break their lock on us. It doesn't change anything. They got in.
No, fuck that. Hey, listen up. We're not gonna let Prime 8 derail us. Let's be smart about this.
All right. Prime 8 sells zero-day exploits to anyone with money.
Yeah, fucking governments, Bloom, Noodle, even goddamn terrorists.
Sons of Ragnarok.
What?
Hell yeah, Sons of Ragnarok. They hire themselves out to Sons of Ragnarok, right? So we find out as much as we can about their people and their operations. We're not gonna roll over, not for anybody. Yo, Josh, man, where you at?
Now it's war. Move.
I'll put a message out on the back channels. These guys are bound to have enemies who will give us some intel.
Let's cornhole these motherfuckers.
But Marcus goes to meet with Lenny in person. It turns out she's also a dick to her tattoo artist, and that's a big no-no in my book. You can tell she's a cool hacker though because of her Darth Maul Halloween costume and the implant in her arm.
Ready for the chip then? Hold on. Just stay there. Oh, look at this dick bag. So, how many lapdogs you got scrambling behind the scenes to crack my uncrackable lock?
Credit where credit's due.
Now, you want me to ask nicely?
Because you could just give me the key and I'd be on my way.
What? It's ransomware, motherfucker.
Which means you want what?
Turns out Lenny has installed ransomware. Her only demand is that we release one of her videos saying the Dedsec is shit, basically.
Oh, you want the precious pros to adore you? Not on my fucking watch. Fuck!
And fuck me, Lenny. There's being a dick, and then there's that.
I want a public broadcast that says Dedsec isn't worth 2 seconds, never mind 15 minutes of the public's fucking time. Spice it up. Add some tears.
Is that all?
Sure. You know? But if you don't do it, then I start naming names. That's right. Names! Identities! A veritable who's who, bitch.
Man, looks like you're not leaving us much choice.
Go ahead. Get good. Until then, why don't you run along and make the video I want?
She threatens Marcus by releasing everyone's identities and then smacks his ass. She's an asshole to service people and is a fucking creep. We then learn that Sons of Ragnarok, a biker gang, hires Primate for work every now and then. So, let's make Primate's bank account hurt by ruining the rep with the bikers. Marcus fucks off to a biker bar, blows up some ATMs, and because the Sons pick up ATMs and then use Primate hacks to get money out of them, but they can also use a crowbar. Now then again, these could be special CTOS ATMs that are crowbar proof. I don't know. This scenario, the gameplay scenario that is actually pretty good. 3 different objectives all spread around with enough stealthy roofs around the place. Does suck that you need to blow them up though, because the enemies know you've done it. Her lock though is still on our server, but turns out the Primate work out of a bunker. We just need its location. Maybe Lenny's RFID implant in her arm could tell us. We meet up with Lenny and it turns out that she's a gamer TM. She's sick of people taking this whole hacker thing too seriously. Why can't we just have fun and hit our tattoo artist?
Do-gooder bullshit. You assholes take yourselves so fucking seriously.
Oh, you're coming at us, but you need to understand.
We try and scan our RFID chip, but get caught.
Hey, what kind of fucking noob do you think I am? And what kind of shit stain are you for getting caught?
I just thought it was worth a
Hey.
shot.
See how far you get with dead servers.
But luckily,
Loser.
Wrench has our back with a sniper rifle that can scan RFID stuff. Sure. This is a lot of hassle to go through. Why can't we just wipe the servers? The hardware isn't lost, just any data present on the server. And if Dedsec practiced good data management, they would have a backup. Getting into the server is easy, but once inside we learn that all this is a trap.
Just get that decrypt key. Fast.
Get your hands off my shit.
Oh, hey, Lenny. I'm in your house, fucking up your shit.
Think you're fucking smart? Bunker Boom 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 was my failsafe for Sons of Ragnarok, but yeah, this'll work too. Can't have my hard drive seized by undesirables.
Lenny might be racist? We have 5 minutes to do the stupidest fucking puzzle in existence. Imagine the already annoying puzzles of Watch Dogs, but Lenny can laugh at you and turn on the nose at once. Wouldn't that be really annoying? Well, they only went and fucking did it. This level is the most annoying one in the entire game because of this bullshit. It's so poorly designed because the player just wants to fucking quit during it. It's terrible. And it's somewhat, perhaps fair to say, this is probably my least favourite part of the entire Watch Dogs series. Like, I've played parts of Legion, and I doubt the rest of Legion's as bad as this. But in the end, it takes a while, but we do it, and then Lenny swears revenge, but it's literally the last time we see her, so who the fuck gives a shit?
Filled donut hole.
Look at that. Seems like I handled the booms.
This is not fucking over.
Yeah, it is.
The rest of this act is pretty bland, to be perfectly honest. There's some cool gameplay here and there, but it's just more of the same. The narrative does that thing that Watch Dogs 1 did, where a lot happens but none of it matters. Like, for example, we learn that the police are using CTOS to hide themselves so they can do drug deals and make some money under the table. We expose this, cool, and then we learn the FBI is watching us and knows who we are. Wrench gets a girlfriend and then gets captured. Guess who there? It's Dusan. And then we learn that Wrench has a burn mark or a birthmark or something. That's why he wears the mask.
That's what the point of the mask is. So you can see I'm trying, you won't see me crying. I'll just keep on smiling, I'm good. And it just keeps on piling, it's so terrifying. But I keep on smiling, I'm good. I've been caring too much for so long, been comparing myself.
You have my permission to die.
I'm glad we got character growth, but it's not character growth for Wrench, it's regression. If the mask is meant to hide a birthmark, isn't that moving his character backwards? If he decided to like wear his mask to like hide his face because of identity reasons, like so he doesn't get seen by the cameras or something, that's fine. But to hide his face because of a mark, because he probably believes it to be ugly, is such a weird thing for Marcus to be okay with. But I don't know. It doesn't matter anyway, as none of this never comes up again. So Tara releases her video about the FBI and the problems go away. And if only it was that simple in real life, right?
Hooking into the camera?
The next mission, Eye for an Eye, starts off with Horatio being kidnapped by the Tesca's gang as the crew watches in horror.
There he is.
Who the hell's that guy?
Get out of there, Horatio.
Yeah.
Jesus!
Oh, fight back, man!
I don't believe this.
Jesus, they're fucking kidnapping him!
We gotta figure out who they are.
Josh, get some facial rec going.
Fuck!
We have to rescue Horatio and stop those who are responsible. So it's time to put in the footwork and do some investigations on these
That one's
individuals.
pretty clear.
Or we could just use facial recognition and use his phone's GPS to get the exact whereabouts of one of the kidnappers. We arrive at the house and we're ready for anything. But instead, we just find Horatio bleeding out on the floor. Marcus tries to help, but Horatio's already dead.
Horatio, man, I'm here, man. Hey, call 911, Josh, call 911. Hold on. I'm here, man. Help's coming, okay? Hang on, man. He's dead, guys. Sorry, Josh, he's fucking dead.
Oh my god, Marcus, get out of there now!
Fuck! Hey, hold on.
You're smart, right?
Yeah, I'm smart. Not so smart, he didn't get caught.
All that shit you seem to know, you're gonna feed to us.
I'm not telling you shit. Fuck you. Fuck.
Whoa.
Oh, fuck me, boy. No, cuidado. No, pinche puta.
Get out of there, Marcus! You gotta get out!
Not yet.
Horatio's murders leave us a video though, and now we have our next target. This is personal for Marcus and the crew, and it's personal for the player as well, because Horatio is the only member of Dedsec who gets dedicated screen time for the narrative. Well, other than comedy sidekick Wrench. Josh informs Marcus that the Tescas have a hideout nearby, so we head over. We destroy their weed farm, take out their enemies, people who weren't even involved, and then we continue this train of thought, destroying their cocaine. I believe we do all this to draw the Tesca leaders out of hiding, so we can kill them. Which works as 3 of the 4 gang members are having a meeting at a hideout. We turn up and we slaughter them, leaving only 1 gang member left, who happens to be a couple blocks over at an underground dogfighting arena, and then we slaughter him.
Find the puta.
That's for Horatio, bitch.
Marcus joins the rest of Dedsec crew back at the hackerspace to share a moment to remember Horatio.
Got him home, man.
I didn't get there quick enough, brother.
Shit, man. Tesca's gonna come after any one of us, dude. Me, you, Josh, anybody.
They went after Horatio, and he refused to give us up.
I'll be along in a bit, man.
The mission closes out the second act of the game and leaves the crew in a worse state than before. Something the game will never address or even bring up. Horatio is dead to the game, to the characters, and to the writers. I do have to say one more thing though. Having the Lenny mission and then this one is kind of rough. It's a mission that is so fucking annoying, and then a mission that is really good, but whose emotional impact is lessened greatly by Lenny casting an ugly shadow over the hours following her mission. But now we move on to Act 3, the most disinteresting part of the entire game. We open Act 3 having no direct access to CTOS's backbone anymore because Douchebag got rid of it in Act 1's conclusion. We have some data coming in from Noodle, but that's really it. So T-Bone has come up with a plan to fix that. Dedsec is moving their network out of data centers into space. This means that Dedsec and other hackers won't ever be able to access it because, well, it's in space. Our quadcopter drones can only fly so high. But this presents a unique opportunity. If we could install a hardware level exploit onto one of these satellites, we could have a direct connection to everything CTOS. We just have to get access to a satellite before it launches. So, we break into the satellite building, install some malware onto a motherboard, and put that motherboard into a satellite. Back at HQ, we celebrate, and then we use the satellite to hack shit. And for some reason, a reason I don't really understand, our main objective is to hack into the biggest CTOS data center. But we can't, so we need to hack into a Scottish one first, and then a CTOS-enabled power plant in South Korea, which is, by the way, heavily hinted at to be nuclear, but in order to bypass the lock or something, we have to, like, cause the power plant to melt down. Yeah, I know, right? And then we hack into the big one in Delaware. We then can download all the CTOS data, and we then discover that all of the big players in the tech space, like Noodle, nVITE, Titus, the US government, and the stock exchange, are all pumping their data through CTOS satellite's backbone.
Oh.
It'll take forever to go through all this.
Focus on why the satellites are in play. Ray.
Yeah, already got eyes on it. Holy lovin' fuck! It's a backbone.
Satellite backbone?
What about the latency? There's no way they can match the speed of fiber optics.
If I'm reading this right, they are. Bloom did it. They're bypassing the undersea cables with satellites.
That's a quantum leap in tech. I mean, if this works, it'll take hackers years to catch up, or...
Yeah, not for us. We're already in. Hey, who's on Bloom's client list?
We got Noodle. We got nVITE. We got Titus. We got Galilei. We got the government. The New York Stock Exchange.
Wait, so all these companies just agreed to up and funnel all their data through Bloom? Does anyone else find that suspicious?
All that data at Bloom's fingertips, that's like the world's most powerful monopoly.
Can we nuke the backbone?
No, even if we could, we still need answers.
Hey, everybody listen up. Our work is far from over, but with this score, at least we're on the playing field. So pick a target. nVITE, Titus, whatever, and start digging. Look for shit they're not supposed to be doing, right? Dushan wants to paint us as an enemy? Let's show him what going to war with us really means.
Yeah.
So in typical Dedsec fashion, Satara releases a video, and she, like any good content creator, teases Dedsec's next project. The biggest one yet.
Take our word for it. Join us as we launch our biggest operation yet, and see for yourselves. The foundations of US policy have failed us all. Democracy, free market, national security. Dedsec will give you the truth. Do what you will.
This big project is basically exposing each tech company for how they're abusing their CTOS access and or user data. A US senator and nVITE are working together to rig an election by using an algorithm to push potential voters to vote for him. We foil this plan, but Doosan, nVITE's CEO and the US senator decided that instead they should just target the newly digitized voting machines. So we blow them all up. Another mission has us investigating the Auntie Shoe Boys, another gang, but this gang has access to Bellwether and is using it to get rich for the stock exchange. So we destroy their servers, which were aboard a barge.
Oh god. Okay. Oh.
What?
But it turns out all of this is part of Doosan's plan, as he blames the Auntie Shoe Boys and their physical access to a CTOS server as a reason why they could manipulate CTOS. So Doosan pushes more and more companies over to the satellite backbone. This angers Dedsec, especially Wrench, who just wants to release everything we have on Doosan.
Bellwether access so they could test it for
Then spun the attack as a vulnerability on the submarine cables. Gotta hand it to the asshole.
You know more companies are gonna sign up for Bloom's satellite pipeline.
Okay, so we release everything we have on Dushan, okay? Let the public hang him like they did fucking Mussolini.
Breaking his neck isn't the answer.
Well, sitting on our asses isn't either, okay? No, but for once what I want you
Shut
to
up! He's baiting us. Think.
He's trying to neutralize us one last time as a threat. And we are a threat. We agreed, all of us, to play this thing out on our own terms. Has that changed? Good. We almost have everything we need to hurt him permanently. So let's all get back to work, and let's bring this thing home. Hmm?
An interesting plot point though, after Josh has analysed the data, it would seem that the 2008 recession was actually an early test of Bellwether's predictive algorithm, which is a really strange thing to like just add on there. But I guess it's world building, but Ubisoft of course can't afford to look into the ramifications of such a claim within the game's world. I don't know. It doesn't matter. The next mission, the penultimate mission by the way, I know right, this has come out of fucking nowhere, focuses on Titus, a robotics company and their dealings with Bloom. The mission is fairly normal until we reach the sub-basements of Titus's headquarters.
Within the next 2 years, Titus will begin field testing assault and defense capabilities of our robots for use in both domestic and military situations. Featuring reliable accuracy and superior reflexes, our robots will provide safer alternatives to soldiers or security personnel.
Guys, I can't even.
What'd you find?
Oh, I can't even. Oh.
But we get to control like a massive combat spider mech, which is cool. It's a spider with guns. It's a fun little break from normal combat. We even get to like a selection of like in progress robots, many aimed at crowd control in case of riots. And then we release the video with all the dirt gathered on Doosan's dealings. And it's time to finish the fight. The final mission, Motherload, begins with Doosan and nVITE's CEO having an argument. Doosan is drinking himself to death as both of their crews explode around them. Doosan is angry and he takes a drastic move to control Marcus.
Conspiracy? And did he darken my picture? Hey, Ray, can you scrub this shit?
Back at the hackerspace, we learn that Marcus is now at the top of everyone's most wanted list, and no, Raymond cannot fix this one. We've moved past as being a threat on C2S networks, and now we're a federal threat. And as such, the crew decides that it's now time that they take the reins on this one. Marcus will provide support while everyone else gets to be the grunts on the ground. Plays Satara, and she gets to hack into a high-ranking Bloom's executive's apartment to gain the access codes to Bloom's headquarters, while Wrench takes his anger on the backup generators for Bloom HQ. Meanwhile, Josh uses his hacking magic to spoof CTOS facial recognition, so now there's 89 Marcuses running around the city. A move that I'm sure won't harm any civilians at all, I'm sure. With access to Bloom HQ now secured, and with Marcus somewhat able to go out safely, we head to Bloom HQ and fight our way through the guards into the basement into Bloom's central server to download sensitive files in Dusan's dealings. The digital final nail in the coffin. T-Bone and Marcus then head to Dusan's hotel room to gloat about their victory.
Marcus? I have to say, I don't really see the win in you coming here, but... Oh, wait. Wait. This isn't some petty macho bullshit, is it?
Could you stop us if it was?
What, you and Encino Man here? I don't know, I'm liking my odds. Fucking Vegas is liking my odds.
Yeah, Encino Man here.
I know who the fossil is.
But Dusan doesn't know that he lost yet, so he keeps his douchebag personality up. T-Bone and Marcus, though, they're having fun with this.
Give you some props, though. You had chops for someone that was clicking two rocks together. Kudos to you.
Well, don't go getting all hard on my account, Duchan. This isn't exactly what you call a social visit. It's more of a, wouldn't you say?
Fuck 'em and leave 'em situation.
Yeah, that. Right.
Right, well, I'm always up for a fucking run, but... Why the hell are you here?
Man, it could be important. Let me tell you a story. Our story. Everything you've done, it's all out there now. Violating the public trust, manipulating the stock markets, the lies, the fraud.
Fucking bellwether. All of it.
You're bluffing.
What happens if you actually answer it this time? Maybe it's Bloom sending you to face the firing squad alone. Or maybe it's your lawyer telling you there's no place to run. Maybe it's just a telemarketer. You really should answer it this time. Whoever it is, you're done fucking people over.
Sam Nevick! Under arrest! Hands behind your back! Interlock your fingers, now!
Sam Nemec, you have the right to remain silent.
And then the game ends with Marcus and gang making one last speech to their followers, and then we get a teaser for the next game.
Hacker. It's a switch on your fears. Fear of the other. They tried to isolate you. It's called divide and conquer. And they tricked you into thinking it's what you asked for. To keep you controlled and ignorant. They use CTOS to track you, to predict your behavior, to keep you in your place. They lied to you, and we promised to expose them and show you the truth. We invited you to join us, and you did. You said with one voice, we will not be lied to. We will not be afraid. We will not be silent. Yeah. Thanks.
Wait long.
Hi. Let's see what the world looks like when we aren't afraid to stand together.
San Francisco hacktivist cell Dedsec has allegedly revealed what might be the biggest scandal in Silicon Valley yet.
How much of this is hyperbole? Has it really gone global?
There are new Dedsec cells popping up everywhere. The Middle East, South America, Europe. And not just them, we can't even keep up with all the new hacktivist groups.
All right. Make the call.
You sure?
Do it.
So, it's conclusion time. But we should probably talk a little bit about how that concluding mission didn't feel like the last mission. Because, say what you will about Watch Dogs 1, but at least we had personal stakes in the narrative. It was a revenge story. What's Watch Dogs 2's story? A social activist tale where we never get to understand what we're fighting against? The game doesn't really do anything to link Marcus's conflict to the player. And that's simply because he doesn't have a conflict. Marcus just doesn't like Dedsec. Why? Because he doesn't. Just don't ask questions. It's a problem that affects nearly everything to do with the game's story. Even T-Bone, who in the original game seems to have much more history of Bloom than what the game ever dug into, just gets shafted so that he can be the older, wiser mentor character once again. They really should have made Marcus have a personal stake in the narrative. The only emotional moment in the entire game is when Horatio dies, but then the game just forgets about him both before and after his death. He gets one mission where he takes center stage, and even then, it's not as much as needed to make his death actually impactful to the player. The game just feels very safe to me. Ubisoft isn't known for having a backbone. I mean, come on. This game isn't political at all. These events could never be analogous to events in real life. That would be crazy. But what about the gameplay? Well, as I've already said, it's fine. It has a greater focus on stealth, sure, but they forget to make the stealth interesting or challenging in any way. Because you can just spam texts and distract people with no cooldown. But I did still enjoy the gameplay overall. It's a very fluid feeling game. It feels great to play, but the mechanics aren't anywhere near as deep as they should be. The game from the first hour to the last is the same. And as we both know, the narrative isn't engaging enough. Especially since every level follows the same flow. Go to place, plug in USB, hack thing, leave, oh no, go to other place, hack another thing. It's really boring at times, but hacking's fun, gameplay while effective is still, simple, but it's fun, so it works, I guess. So yeah, it's a really similar conclusion to Watch Dogs 1. The game's good, it's okay, but I just don't believe it's better than its predecessor. But having an average game over a below average game isn't the win Ubisoft thinks it is. While there's more I could say about Watch Dogs 2, more about its setting, its characters, mechanics, weird narrative problems, the game isn't interesting enough to need it. Because basically all my criticism of Watch Dogs 1 carries over the Watch Dogs 2. Sure, they fix up some minor stuff. The narrative is perhaps a little bit more interesting, but it's only interesting because it moves around at such a breakneck pace. You never have time to sit down and think about the ramifications of an event, because you go from deleting child porn off a pedophile's hard drive to taking down the US government's military R&D division. Like, there's no time to reflect. And that's something that Watch Dogs 1 did pretty well. Like, there was always, there was Aiden Pierce's whole monologues, right? Which, while cliched and somewhat, maybe stale at times, they at least gave you insight into the character. Because Marcus is more likable, but he's less of a character than Aiden. Aiden had trauma. He had experiences and events happen in his past which actually make sense for his character. They made him, deep, I guess. I don't know. And then you have Marcus where nothing's happened. Marcus is a blank slate. And that works for some people, but I don't think it worked for me. I like characters who have story which is interesting, and Marcus just isn't that. There are characters in Watch Dogs 2 which have interesting stories, sure. Like, Wrench is an interesting, secondary character, as is Horatio and Josh to a point, but they don't go anywhere. Although, it is worth pointing out, I do plan on doing a video on Watch Dogs Legion, and Watch Dogs Legion's DLC does have Wrench in it as a side character. So, maybe that will fix my issues. Maybe it won't. Watch Dogs Legion should hopefully also be the video that rounds out this year for the channel. Probably, I'm going to say a tentative date of probably December 20th, hopefully. But between here and there, I have a couple more videos coming out. And I expect somehow to fit an entire series of reviews on one multi-part gaming franchise in there somehow. So get hyped, I guess. As for housekeeping stuff, subscribe if you liked the video. Drop a comment. Tell me what you liked, tell me what you didn't. If you have thoughts about Watch Dogs 2, I'd love to hear them. This game is interesting for a lot of reasons. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at ConversingG. I provide progress updates, shitposts, memes, etc. There's a Google form in the video description where you can suggest games. There's also now a Ko-Fi coffee link where you can donate a couple dollars if you want to. That's just there because, I don't know, these videos take so long to make and I would appreciate, like, some pennies for making it. I don't know. But yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching and I'll hopefully see you soon for another video.